Hi, I'm Teresa Marie Lennon again. I would like to talk about seeking harmony. My first lesson in how to treat other people was, if you can't think of anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. And I was taught that was the golden rule. That, of course, is not the golden rule, and I didn't really like that idea very much because the truth isn't always nice. And I was taught to tell the truth and things like that. So that didn't really make sense to me. I usually try to say things nice to people, but no, I can't always say things nice. The truth isn't always nice. But having good, harmonious relationships is well worth striving for. They are invaluable and precious assets in our lives to have good, peaceful relationships with others. I did learn about the real golden rule later, which is to treat others the way you want to be treated. This is a crucial lesson in how to treat other people. Most of us do not like being hurt, so I stood against violence, and I still stand against violence. I don't believe violence solves anything. I don't believe in doing violence to little kids, especially I don't believe in doing violence to people that are smaller and weaker than me. I believe that children are people too and deserve to be treated the way I'd like to be treated. After I heard what Martin Luther King Jr. had to say against violence, I was impressed. Martin Luther King Jr. is one of my heroes. I really like what he had to say. It reinforced my stance against violence. It's not so important to be right all the time. Sometimes keeping the peace is more important. We have to pick our battles with other people. We can't go around arguing and causing problems and fighting over petty stuff. That's not conducive to a peaceful relationship with other people. You'd want to pick your battles carefully. Is it worth arguing about? Avoid being defensive. I used to get told that a lot. I got told not to be so defensive a lot when I was a young lady. People are not trying to be, weren't being personal with me. They weren't taking out their problems on me. A lot of times the criticism was constructive, not destructive. But I took it all personal, and I'd get defensive and start arguing. I was very argumentative for a long time. I find that it's important to actually try to listen when someone is confronting you or criticizing your work, or that was a big one for me, was getting my writing criticized. I took it personal. I would get defensive about that, and the suggestions they made were actually quite reasonable and probably helpful. Another thing we should do to maintain peaceful relationships with others is to mind our own business. There's a time and a place for calling somebody out on something, and that would be a battle that you'd pick if it's a battle that's worth it. If the negative behavior is aimed at you, or you're defending someone who's about to get hurt, or trying to save someone's life, it might be worth your time to step in and say something. But in general, it's a good idea to mind your own business. Humility is not overrated in our relationships with others. Nobody's better than anybody else. Humility, I've heard it said, is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. That's a good policy when talking about other people. Nobody is better than anybody else. And you'll always find someone who's better than you at something. When you're dealing with other people or dealing with situations in life itself, you may want to check your perceptions. Our perceptions are the lenses through which we see the world. And if they're not clear, we won't see the world properly. Try to be objective. As I was talking about before, being objective is good. Seeing the good and bad in situations. Taking what people say with a grain of salt kind of thing. Not just because somebody is wrong doesn't mean you have to tell them they're wrong. You want to keep a balanced perspective. It's a good idea to see the innocence in others. And to see what others can teach you. Just about everybody can be your teacher if you want them to be. Now, I feel like I have to mention that it's almost impossible to make peace with someone who is against the whole idea of having peaceful relationships with others. And I'll get into that in a little bit when I talk about conflict. Another essential part of maintaining harmonious relationships is to take time out for yourself. Take me time. Spend some time in nature. Trying to become one with the environment. I know it sounds kind of new agey and flaky, but there's a lot out there. There's a lot of life out there. There's a lot to see out there. Sometimes when I'm really involved in something, I'll go outside and squirrels jump and flip around and chase each other around, and it'll make me laugh. So it's a good idea to take me time. We have to balance our time. We can't be social all the time, and we can't be antisocial all the time if we want peaceful relationships with others. Remember that you are powerless over others. Powerless over places, people, and things to some extent. Always powerless over places, and sometimes powerless over things. Some things you do have power over, like the telephone or the computer or whatever, but things as in situations or whatever. Keep your side of the street clean. That's important to do if you want to maintain a peaceful relationship with others around you. That basically means that you take care of what you need to take care of. You take care of what's on your plate. You take responsibility for what you are responsible for. You can't have power without responsibility, so you take care of what you do have power over, which is yourself and your stuff. You can't take care of other people and other people's stuff. So take care of your own. That should keep you busy enough for the rest of your life. Expand your definition of intimacy. It's good to be intimate with many people. It's not too good to get too attached or too clingy to any one person, because everybody here on earth is a beginner more. And a lot of people have some of the answers. Nobody has all the answers. Nobody has everything we need. So it's good to not become too attached to any one person. Be willing to open up to many people and talk to many people. Learn to walk a mile in other people's shoes. That's compassion. Compassion is very crucial to maintaining peaceful relationships with others. Seek common with other people. This is an excellent way to keep conversations going and to identify with other people. You'll usually find that you have something in common with everyone you learning to listen actively is very important. That doesn't, when I first heard the idea that I should probably start listening to other people, I was real scared. I was worried about brainwashing and being taken over by other people and stuff, and that's never happened to me. I've never met anyone who wanted to brainwash me. So I learned to listen. I learned to stop thinking about what I was going to say next and knowing what the other person was going to say next, and actually listen to what people have to say. And actively listening is a step beyond just listening. When you actively listen, you ask questions based on what the person has said for clarification, or ask questions about what you're interested in, about what they've said. Paraphrase what they've said. That lets them know that you've heard what they said and allows them to clarify any misunderstandings. Practice quieting your mind enough to actually listen to other people. Stop worrying about what to say next. Actually, stop worrying is a good philosophy to apply to life in general. You do not have to listen to liars. I don't know anybody else who says that, but I think it's a good policy to walk away from people that insist on lying to you, because usually people who tell you lies and make stuff up and are constantly critical of other people, which is another form of lying, because nobody's all bad. It's not worth your time to listen to them, because they usually have some sort of hidden agenda. You can usually spot a person who is not really that good of a person based on whether or not they lie a lot. Don't sacrifice in your relationships with others. It builds honest relationships. You may not have as many social contacts as someone else, but it's not a competition. The idea is to maintain peaceful relationships with others. And it's hard to have a peaceful relationship but that isn't based on honesty. Say what you need to say now. Life is too short not to. Let go of negative people, and the idea that make everyone feel better is your job. It's not your job to make everyone feel better. That's not actually maintaining the peace. People are responsible for their feelings. You are responsible for your own feelings. I am responsible for my own feelings. They are responsible for their own feelings. If someone misunderstands what you say and gets upset, that's not your responsibility. You can try to clarify, but that doesn't always work. Sometimes they'll argue with you or whatever. It's not your job to make them feel better. Detachment is that's part of detachment, is not getting involved in other people's emotional stuff. Not getting enmeshed in other people's stuff. Especially when dealing with addicts and alcoholics and things. It's not good to get too attached to those people, because people, when they are actively addicted or actively drinking and they're not, are not reliable. And a lot of times they'll lie, and you don't have to listen to liars.